What's up, everybody? It's your boy Damiso, Josey from the Empowerment Perspective Group. This is part number 2 of our Fatherhood series with P. Collesano. You can still check out part number 1 on our website, theempowermentperspective.com/podcast. This is Fatherhood part 2. It's the Empowerment Perspective Podcast, hosted by Damiso, Josey, and Mr. Kareem Spence. Stay empowered. Stay empowered. Stay empowered.
And I just want to point out that you're talking about personal development, like that kind of education. Mm-hmm. We're assuming you're leaving the academic stuff, or at least most of the academic stuff, to the school. I think, in the book that I wrote with School Sucks, I always cringe a little when I say the name of the book. I talk about that. That's why schools fail. When they fail, it's simply because they don't, at least public schools, for the most part, they don't put any priority on developing the individual, developing the person. And maybe they can't. I don't know. I haven't been an administrator, so I can't speak to that. But I've always felt, and this is why I wrote the book in the first place, I've always felt that good people tend to be successul. So if you develop good kids, they'll do good in math.
Right.
Okay? So there's when you want to attack a problem or attack a situation, there's a direct way and then there's an indirect way. The direct way to attack low math scores in general with students is to say, prioritize math, do more math, practice more math. Okay? Right. The other way, indirectly, is to look and say, if you had your priorities in order, if you had different standards as an individual, as a person, as a human, as a member of society, of a civil society, you would naturally do better in math. For example, do you clean your room? Is your bed made every morning? That's just a routine. That's a standard. And it's not the bed, it's not the room, it's the person you have to be to make sure that your room is clean, right, that your bed is set. And those people tend to do better. Tend to do better. We don't talk in 100%, 0%, but they tend to be more successful. So if you wanted better math scores, maybe one of the ways you do that is by especially with elementary school kids, start it young, develop better people, work on developing the individual. And I mean, I'm willing to bet everything that you would almost instantly see math scores skyrocket because good people tend to be more successful.
I think now is a prime opportunity for that to happen with the social emotional learning piece that schools are messing with. I'm not even saying they're diving into it, but I think they're just messing with it right now. And I think we're at a critical point in order to be able to do exactly what you're saying, because I think they're seeing that it's important to develop the social emotional aspect of it in order for them to perform better in other areas. I don't think we're there yet.
Right, because they only gear it towards the academic. Right. So like if you're a visual learner, we got to work on visual learning for math.
Right.
Like, that social emotional stuff, we don't even, for example, if you wanted to teach character, if schools who want to teach character, they'll talk about what self-discipline is, and they'll put a big poster on the wall that says self-discipline. And then look, you've done nothing. Right. Because you're not actually, again, having the kids experience self-discipline or responsibility or whatever those traits, persistence. Persistence is important. Kids quit so easily. Persistence is vital. You don't do anything where we don't do anything. Not intentionally. We don't do, and this is the idea. Intentionality is what's important and what I'm talking about. We don't intentionally plan anything like in your lesson plans. This is what the purpose of. It's always with the purpose of, within a math lesson, within a science lesson. And I don't even know if I have a perfect way of fixing that. I'm just saying, if you want those things, which you do, you can't be good in math or science or language arts or any of those things if you don't have good self-control. If you're not able to say, I don't want to do this, but I have to do it, and I do it.
Right.
So
it's a perspective thing, and that's the last point I'm going to make here is that teaching your kids how to have a different perspective of school. I think we have the fundamental idea is that, all right, I go to school, your job as a teacher is to teach me, my job is to learn, and it makes me passive as a student. I think we said this before. I'm relying on your knowledge base. I'm relying on you to give me something. And I think that's the wrong perspective. If we teach our kids to go out and take their education, now I come into this classroom, I may not even like the topic. I may not even like the teacher. It doesn't matter because I'm here to take this education. I have to go through the Pythagorean theorem, and I hate it, but I have to go.
That's what I got to do.
I have to take it. So changing the mentality, and I try to instill that with our girls. We have our family saying that Josey girls are smart girls, they're strong girls. So they know that they go out there, they have to go and take it. And you can develop this at a young age by, my kids come home, they get something wrong with their homework, I don't necessarily correct it. Right. You have to go in there and go tell the teacher, raise the hand, I don't understand what's going on here. Can you help me out? Using the teacher as a resource. But at the end of the day, as they get older, what you'll find is that the teacher don't even necessarily have to be in the classroom, because now all you got to do is tell me, all right, you need to know this stuff by this particular time because it's a test. Teacher can get out of it, especially if I can go into Google and type anything I want to and get all the information. We have to start flipping our kids' mentality of work ethic at the end of the day.
No doubt
you have to go out and get it. Nothing's going to be given to you. So
and that is a long process.
Yes.
This is something that I know parents get frustrated with sometimes. I get frustrated with it. You want these things to be ingrained in them. The first few times you say it to them, man, you have to accept that this takes a while. My son just started wrestling. And I was not a wrestler. I just always had an issue with it because of the weight loss that they kind of force with kids in high school. But wrestling is a great sport for learning like hard work because it is. I played football into college, and it's tough. I don't know that there is a sport that's more of a grind, that just a pure grind than wrestling, right? So he came home the other day, and I said, how'd it go? And he says, I almost pinned this kid. And I'm like, Peter Richard, he's 5. You're 8. And he's like, yeah. And he didn't get it. He didn't understand it. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, dude, you should always pin a 5-year-old.
Right.
And we're walking into the house, and I caught myself, and I'm like, let it go. He's been wrestling a month. Let it go. Let this take time. Let him, if it was 2 years, 3 years into wrestling and he's still happy about pinning a kid who's 3 years younger than him, then we have something to talk about.
Right.
But he's never pinned anybody. Right. So if he's going to pin a 5-year-old, okay, at least it's something, right? And I was, and what got me over it was long term. Look at this as a long game, because it is.
It is a long game. You have to enjoy the process.
Try to.
But you have to enjoy the process, and I put down here, get out your feelings. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but we have to stop living vicariously through our children. Because what you said, not necessarily that you were living vicariously through it, but you wanted the pin.
Right.
He didn't. He thought.
I don't think he cared that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I almost pinned him.
In fact, after his first match, he was like, "What?" My wife, who grew up with her sister's boyfriend, was top 3 in the state in his weight class in wrestling. So she probably knows wrestling better than I do, right? And she's like, "You got to do this." And I'm like, "Relax." Right. He's been doing this for about 5 minutes. Yeah. We have to just slow things down. It's not. The wins, you're never going to look back on wins when you were 8. And if you do, then you probably have a problem too, because that probably means you failed later. Yeah. So don't worry about that right now. Worry about getting better, improving. That's one thing I say when I drop him off. Every practice I drop him off. I say, make sure you get better at something today. And then when I pick him up, I say, what'd you get better at today? Right. Think about that. What going into it, I want to get better at something, and when you come, I want him to think about it. So I say, "What did you get better at today?" Right. And as long as there's some improvement, a 1% improvement every day adds up to a lot. But you got to look at it as a year and years. Yeah, that's the game. That's the way it has to be played.
And we have to, like I said, you got to stop wanting things that your kids don't necessarily.
Oh, totally.
You have to. Yeah. And then you have to have those conversations. You have to do your assessment, because I get caught up in it too. My kids play soccer and I want them to do certain things. I'm a competitor, but then every once in a while my wife be like, listen, you need to relax.
You're not playing, dude.
Right. I had my chance. So that's important. Make sure you get out your feelings. Another important piece, and I know I'm jumping around here, but it's something that we need to take care of ourselves as fathers, because you can't be there and lead a family without taking care of your own personal health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Including your stress levels, including your mental and emotional health. All of those things factor in, because it's kind of like they feel it. Kids can feel tension in the air. They can feel your stress. They can feel everything that you're going through, and some of them will let you know, hey, what's wrong? My daughter might ask me what's wrong or something like that. Even if they don't, your energy and the stuff that you're giving off is starting. It will go back to your kids and stuff. So you need to take care of yourself. You don't have to be some super buff person. Like, I go to the gym not because I want to be big and stuff. I don't want to pass out walking up the steps. I caught myself. I put on some weight and I'm walking up my steps in my house. I'm like, I'm tired.
This is my house. I shouldn't get out of breath going to bed.
I can't have this happen. So make sure that you take care of yourself. You do need to have time for yourself. You just can't make it hours on end and neglect your responsibilities to that. Luckily, I have a loving wife that picks up and does things so that I don't have to do them, and gives me the space to do the things that I want to do. So it's important for you to take care of yourself and eat healthy, and because again, your kids are also going to do what you do. So make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, as a phys ed and health teacher, I take this pretty personally. So I have a couple ideas on this. My mentor, Jim Rohn, or one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, he said this. He said, "I'll take care of me for you if you'll take care of you for me." It's important to take care of yourself because I can't help you out. I can't be there for you if I'm sick. This is one area where my dad did fail. He did not do well. My dad had quadruple bypass when he was 52.
Wow.
Died at 75. Was not healthy for the last, you could probably say the last 15 years, but like the last 2-3 years were pretty rough.
Right.
This is when I said, now I'm the dad to my dad, and it was a major growing experience. So, at the time, I'm thinking of this story. I'm on the beach. I'm like 39 years old. My son is like a year and a half old, and I'm up to like 248 pounds. I'm 6'1". I have a pretty thin frame, so I'm like 248 pounds. I just let it go, I played college football at 205. Here I am at 248. And frankly, from 220 to 248 probably happened in about, 6 to 9 months. So, give you an idea of what it looked like. Yeah. And I'm sitting on the beach, and I'm looking at my son, who's about a year and a half, and my daughter, who's about 6 months. And I look down at myself, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing it all over again. Because my dad, when he had that quadruple bypass, I was 13. And I'm doing the math, and I'm like, when my kids are teenagers, I'll be in my low to mid 50s.
Right.
And if I look like this at 39, 40, what am I going to look like then?
Wow.
And I'm thinking, my dad couldn't really participate at that point. He did when I was younger, which was phenomenal. But he couldn't participate when I got into my teen years. And I said, I'm not going to do that. One of the saddest days in my life was when I knew that my dad could never beat me again in horse or pig, the basketball shooting game, right? It was awful. Because I knew, never again, unless I let him, which is pathetic, right? I don't want him to even think that I let him. Right. So it'll never happen again, because he just couldn't do it anymore. He could barely reach the basket from certain distances. Right. I'm like, wow. And I'm thinking, I'm back on the beach now, and I'm thinking, I can't let that happen. Right. And I immediately changed the way I was eating and exercise and stuff like that. And, I got myself down to 195, and right now I'm hovering around 200. It's important. Yeah. If you really want to be there for your kids physically you have to be able to participate. Absolutely. And even intellectually, if you're physically healthier, you're going to be better prepared intellectually. So, and then the other thing is what you definitely said. They're watching, they're listening, they're eating what you're eating a lot of times. I love when I hear my kids say they don't want something because there's too much sugar, or man, they know it. Like, I'm giving it to you and you're saying no, right? Like, I'm a bad parent right now because I'm giving you this, non-nutritious food.
My kids are reading labels. Oh, this got 50 calories in it. And
think of how valuable that is. That's really valuable. I certainly didn't do that when I was younger. And I say this to my wife a lot of times. I don't want them in a position that I'm in now, which is you're fighting against this now. You're trying to make corrections.
Right.
It would be significantly better if you never got overweight or never got high blood pressure or diabetes or whatever those things are that everybody gets. 1 in 5 people have diabetes now or pre-diabetic. How about don't become diabetic so that you don't ever have to deal with that? Don't get overweight so that you don't have to lose weight.
Yeah.
And that's why setting these, again, standards, and these are standards of health, standards of nutrition, standards of exercise. They know it now.
Yep.
Oh, what an advantage.
Yeah.
What an advantage. And think about this as a parent, think about this. What an advantage your kids will have over other kids and as they get over other adults that are not doing those things. Because not everybody's going to do that.
Right.
Not everybody's going to eat well. Not everybody's going to exercise. Your kids, when they become adults, if they maintain that, have a huge advantage over everyone else. And whether that's selfish or not, that's the game, folks. You're probably going to have to beat someone out for something. You had to beat someone out for your administrator jobs. Yep. It's a competition in life. Yeah. So if you can set yourself up to be more successful, and if a component of that is being healthy and fit, then you'd be a fool not to take advantage of it.
The other piece that, in terms of health, we can talk about emotional health too, mental health. Make sure you're taking care of yourself in those aspects too. And don't be afraid to go talk to somebody. I'm not ashamed. I'll go see a therapist when I need to go see it, and I need to talk to somebody just to get a different perspective of what I'm going through at that time. I use my wife a lot of times, but at some point I'm sure she's tired of me beating her ear up, so I need to go somewhere else. But make sure that you're taking care of yourself from a mental health aspect, an intellectual aspect too. Like, you should be a lifelong learner.
Right.
And it gets to a point where I'm not necessarily learning for myself. One, I'm learning to put myself in a better position to help my family, but I'm also looking to learn to be able to figure out how I can give my kids a different experience.
Right.
Like, how cool would it be if I could do this? Or I read about this, and now my kids are doing. So I'm on this kick now. Like, I've never been to the Statue of Liberty, so I was like, you know what? I read up on it and did some things on it. My kids obviously seen the pictures. All right, we're going to go see this. We went to go see the Statue of Liberty. They're learning about government. I'm not politics guy, but guess what? I'm going to read some stuff so that I can give them those experiences as well. So there's 2 levels to that intellectual thing. One, putting yourself in a position, like you said, it's a competition. Like, I need it
is, whether we like it or not. I mean, you may not like the game. You may not like that it's a competition. I don't know. I kind of do because I'm a competitive person. And I think competition is how things get better over time because you do something a certain way, and maybe I think I could do it a better way. And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm right. I mean, this is how I think we talked about this previously. This is how the iPhone was even invented, or the iPod originally was invented, that there might be a better way of doing this. Going from tape to CD, there was a better way, So that's what competition brings, and that's why I think it's a good thing. Just be prepared. I'd rather look at it and say, this is the way the game is played, so I'm going to play it, as opposed to, the game shouldn't be played this way. Well, then I don't know what you do in that scenario, okay? I don't know what you do if you just won't accept the game.
I think being competitive, it has to be healthy competition. I say that by this.
Yeah, we don't need to be pirates and cutthroat, okay?
But I feel like, though...
But it is a game.
I feel like no one's going to beat me at something. Like, let's say we're on a treadmill, right? And I'm going to outrun you. I'm going to try my best to outrun you. I guarantee that that's going to happen. In the end, if I do or I don't, at the end... Look how much more healthier I became because I did that. So my competition is, if I'm sitting down interviewing for this administrative job, I'm going to put forth, I'm going to get this job. If I don't, I'm going back and say, this is what I've learned and grown from this particular process. So for me, I just love the process of competing. It's not the end result. Whether
I was just going to say, it goes back to what we talked about before, of how I said it's not so much the job, or it's not so much the work, the treadmill itself. It's who you became to push yourself to that level. You have to be better to push yourself past the pain, past the discomfort, whether it's emotional pain, physical pain, intellectual pain of studying for tests and stuff like that. When you push yourself through that discomfort and pain and suffering, there's no choice but to be better. You are better for it.
Yep.
Not just for the work or for the health or for the job. You are better for it. And because of that, as you move forward, you'll do better things.
Right. We'll move to our next topic, friends. Oh, this is a really interesting topic for me. When you move into fatherhood, like I have people that I grew up with that I've been friends, lifelong friends with. And then there's friends that came and went, had kids, and then I had to distance myself from certain people because they didn't have kids. And I prayed and hoped that they would understand. And eventually they had kids themselves and they kind of got it. Like, I try not to put myself around people that are not in a relatively same situation as far as parenting and things are concerned. So
part of that's going to happen organically.
Organically, yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
you're doing certain things, and other parents are doing those same things with their kids. So you're going to find those things organically. But and that's a tough decision to have to make.
Absolutely, especially for the young fathers out there. That's a difficult situation because you've been hanging with your friends. I'm sure even you and your wife might be hanging with couples and things. Right. Those things are going to change. They should change.
I would say, you know, they might not change immediately because you're gonna hold on to those as long as you can, right? You know, get the babysitter so that you can go, get over to the Borgata or wherever with your friends or something like that. Right. But I think a conscious parent eventually, almost inevitably, immigrates away from that to a certain degree. Right? Yeah. You always like you said before, you certainly want to hold on to some of yourself. Right. So you're gonna have, and I think it's healthy to do some of those things when you can. It's just going to be a lot less frequent.
You have to evaluate, how is this friendship impacting my family?
Totally.
That's at the end of the day. That's what it. I have friends that don't have children that may be single that still living that life, but they have an understanding and a respect when they come around my family that this is what it is. When it becomes a point that is interfering with my family, then we move from it. Then you get into this game a long time, and then, like you said, it organically happens. Your friends become your kids' friends' parents, so that it becomes that piece.
And then you're choosing even within that group.
Yes.
You're like, well, which one of these parents kind of have values that at least mostly 80-20, 80% of their values line up with my values. Right. And then you're even looking at the kids and say, well, I don't know if I want Johnny interacting with my kid. So there's this constant comparison, and then you kind of whittle it down to a handful.
The game changed for me because it was from before kids. Me and my wife, obviously, we were together and married, and the game was, what couples can we get along with? Sure. Either I didn't like the husband or she didn't like the wife thing. So we play that game. We struggled for a long time to try to actually find people that we both could. And
when you do, you feel like you hit the lottery.
You hit the lottery, right?
Hey, want to hang out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? How about that?
Right. So then it became, then you add that extra piece when you have those kids, and now it becomes, all right, well, everybody. I know there's moments you're not going to get along, but it becomes more about your kids and their friends, and then you kind of by default become friends with other people. But like I said, I try to gravitate to either people that are in the same situation as me or have an understanding of it, but I'm also trying to learn from these people.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out if this piece is working, even if it's superficial. Like, I don't know. I'm not in their house. I don't know what's really going on. Right. But I can see. So one of the things, like my uncle and my aunt, they don't have any kids, but I asked him, they've been married for like 70 years. And I was like, what was the key to keep your marriage? And he was like, no matter where I go, my wife goes. And I see them everywhere that she's with them. So then I started thinking from my family perspective, there is not too many places that I can't go that I can't bring my kids to.
Right.
I cut out all those things that the gentleman's club or this. I'm not going there anymore because I can't bring my kids there. Right. So your friends and the things that happen along this family journey, it becomes really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm teaching a lesson right now with my students at school, and it's off this idea of show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And it's the idea that most of us are kind of the average of the 5 closest people in our lives. And I work at an alternative school with some kids that they've had a difficult life. They had a difficult go of it. So their friends have also had a difficult go of it. And I say, listen, I'm not trying to tell you get rid of all your friends and get a different set of friends that are going to. I said, but how about this? How about maybe start to loosen off of one of them that's not the closest, the least closest to you of the five. Maybe let that one start to go. And on the other end, maybe pick up a friend or start talking to someone, or maybe an acquaintance you have, strike up more of a friendship with someone that's significantly different than you. Mm-hmm. I said, at the very least, and if you think about this, at the very least, you've just changed 20% of yourself. Because 1 in 5, one of your friends now is a little different, and you will now be different because of that. I say this all the time. Like, obviously, I hang around, or I'm at least connected to a lot of teachers. And without trying to be disrespectful, teachers, and by the nature of the job, teachers are not the most ambitious, people in the world. They're not entrepreneurial minded. And that's a good thing, because we want them doing what they're doing for a long time, because they do, we hope they're doing it well. So that's most of the people I have around me. But my brother-in-law is a very successful businessman. And when I get to be around him, it's amazing how my mindset changes. And I start thinking in business terms, and what are possibilities outside of education, and what can you do? And, well, this is what I did. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what you did? I could do that. It's incredible. And I think it's important to consider that when you look at the closest people around you, most of the closest people around you. I'm not trying to say immediately dump all your friends and find good people. And maybe it's even good to have some friends in low places, we'll say, okay? Because that's part of life as well.
Absolutely.
But at least consider, like you're saying, who do you want influencing you? Who do you want influencing your kids? Because they're going to be around your kids as well.
I look at it like investing money, right? So if you had, let's say, company A, it might be a company that's been around for a while. There's a tremendous upside, though, and you're going to get some sort of return on your investment. Company B is a new startup, but the product's flimsy. It's always, in and out of, let's say, trouble or whatever the case may be. It's very simple. I'm going to obviously put my investment in company A because I want a bigger return on my investment. I look at friends and people in that way, but I look at it as a two-way street. One, what value am I going to get out of having that friendship? But what value am I bringing to that other person as well? So I look at these people and I look at what is my return on my investment, my time that I have, that I give. And if it's just a laugh and a joke and I'm not really getting anything out of it, all right, we won't cut you off the list. I'm going to invest my time.
Or at least put you lower on the list.
I'm not putting thousands of dollars in that investment. I might put $5 in that investment, right? That type of thing. So evaluating your friends, because again, it's all going to impact your family. It's going to impact, the decisions sometimes that you make for your family. It's important, obviously, to have friends, but try to put yourself around people that are going through at least an experience with you, so you could have someone to bounce some stuff off of.
Definitely.
But also look at those people that are going to make you think outside of the box and also push you to be able to propel your family into a different direction.
Yeah, and when you're talking especially about new parents, whether you've had good role models or not, it's still all new to you, okay? So if you have an opportunity to, at the very least, observe somebody else, and if you think they're doing it well, you would want to be around them, assuming you're compatible. I mean, compatibility is important. I mean, we're calling them friends. You do certainly need to be friends, but I guess what we're saying more than anything is just be careful, be aware.
Absolutely.
Like we said before, your kids are always learning. Whether you're teaching them or not, they are learning. So you just want to be aware of what and who they're learning from.
Absolutely. I want to go to finances real quick.
Oh, boy.
On a previous podcast and radio show, we had Benjamin Pitts on, who was a financial expert, gave us some gems on how to set up your family and also how to set up yourselves. But we're going to talk specifically about setting up your children from a financial standpoint for their futures, and some basic things that I've learned along the way, and some things. Some parents are talking about this 529 thing and getting them set up for college and putting stuff away. Basically, you should be saving for your kids. Like my kids have their own stocks, they have their own account, and it's not much that I take out of my check, but it comes out. I pretend like it's not there, and and
never existed.
Never existed. And I actually increased it the other day, and they got way more money than I have on my personal account. But not only am I doing that from a savings standpoint, once they get old enough to understand how stocks and things work, I teach them that, and they run their own portfolio so that they're controlling their own money, type things. But you need to start saving, even if it's a savings plan. Open an account, just specific, a custodial account where you can't really touch it yourself. It's their account, but you have control of where the money goes. Like for example, I can't pull the money out of my kids' account. They can when they get 18, but I can't pull it out. I can maneuver the money and push it where I need to push it, but I can't take it out unless it's for like an emergency, for them. It can't be for me.
Right.
It has to be for them. So setting up something along those lines for them is important. And you have to. We talk about, especially in the Black community, we talk about a lack of generational wealth. We're never ever going to get there doing the same things that we've been doing, year on year. And I know we're stretching money and things of that nature, but just like you pay yourself first and try to create your savings account, try to create one if you can, even if it's $50, $20,
something.
Check. From the day that they're born, the day that you know that this child's coming to earth, if you set that up, over time it grows, and then they'll have something to build off of if they choose to go to college, they go to college. If they choose not to, then at least they have something to build off of. So beginning that process for finances, you have to set them up. And I just looked at it when in high school there was kids getting graduation gifts, money. It was $500, but that was like I never got any money or nothing. So my inspiration from the beginning was I just want something to be able to here's a check because you've graduated, because I never had that experience. But it's turning into have a whole master plan in terms of what because I'm trying to set them up academically. I'm trying to set them up from a perspective standpoint. For example, my oldest daughter wants to do a slime convention. Right, she wanted to go to one. I said, no, we're going to create one. You're going to learn the business of slime and how to do those things. So I'm trying to train their mind into, their future. You know what I'm saying? So that when they want to do something on a bigger scale, there's money for them to make that happen. So I think it's important for you to definitely put money away for your children.
Yeah. I am not the guy to give specifics on this. I don't know that my finances are so great, but I definitely don't have the acumen in this area. But what I do like to do with everything, as I told you before, I don't really like to tell people what to do, what they have to do, or what they should do. But how about this for a way of looking at it? Looking at finances in general, not necessarily just for your kids, but finances in general. Because I know we all want what we want. And we want it when we want it. Okay, so maybe a way of looking at it is to say you should act like you're broke until there's no possibility of being broke.
Being broke, yeah.
Like until you have so much security, and that's really what it is. We're talking about security. Then you should act like you don't have any security.
Yep.
And we all have those times at some point where there's more month than there is money, right? You're like pressing, and it's tough. So if we have this idea, this perspective of that you are broke, I mean, and frankly, if you don't have any money at the end of the month, you're broke. Now, that doesn't mean you're destitute, because if you have a job, you'll have money coming in again at the end of the month or whenever your check comes in, But you are broke. You're not secure. So you need to act like that until you're not. Until there's not just until you're not, but until there's no chance of that.
You should use money and things as a learning process too for your children. Me and my wife talked today about them having chores and earning money to get the things that they want. So it's a matter of teaching them that not everything in life is not given to you. You have to work in order to do those things. My kids know that when mommy and daddy leave the house, it's for food, clothing, and shelter. It's ingrained in their brain. So it's really we're using this concept of money and finances as a means to develop a work ethic within our children. they still are struggling with, Daddy, can I have some money? I want to go to the store every 5 seconds. And it's hard sometimes as a parent where I can easily take them to the store and say, you can get whatever you want. And it's hard saying no sometimes. Sure. But I have to say no for the sake of them understanding that, one, you're not going to, just because you exist, you can't get everything that you want. Two, you have to actually do some work in order to get what you want to do. So,
well, the other side of that too is, as kids, especially younger kids, of course they're going to ask for everything because they don't know that they can't have certain things or that they can't have what they want all the time. So, my wife, fairly recently, maybe within the last 6 months or so, she said, I just felt so bad. They were out at the mall or at some store. And she's like, I just felt so bad because I'm just always saying no. And I said, listen, of course they're going to ask you for those things. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
They don't know that they can't just have anything they want. Yeah. I mean, even if they know it, because we don't always get them things, without having a really true understanding of a paycheck and when it comes and how much taxes are taken out, like you're going to get into that, like a FICA tax, you teach a 6-year-old about FICA tax, until you get a paycheck, right? It's hard to really understand those things. So, of course you're going to have to say no. And then if you can attach a conversation to that and show something and say, this is what's going on. I remember a student, we were talking about taxes. This was going back a few years. But, she was saying, I wouldn't mind paying 70% of my paycheck if it's going to help people. Because we're talking about raising and lowering taxes. And I said, that's real easy to say when you don't have a job. Yeah. When you don't grind out 35 to 40 hours a week.
Right.
Of course it's easy to say, I'd give up 70% because you don't have a mortgage, you don't have an electric bill, a phone bill, a cell phone bill, cable bill, gas bill, food, your car, insurance. It's easy to say. So until you experience that, it's hard. But that's why we're here. They don't know. You're a parent. Your job is to guide them. So saying no, while sometimes you don't want to say no, is the right thing to do.
The other piece is
that's the lesson, right? Yeah. Like the no is the lesson that you can't have everything you want every time you want it. Sometimes you can.
You have to also assess your situation as a father in terms of finances of your financial situation, because a lot of us are living in houses that are way too big, and we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. We got this car and
those damn Joneses.
And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. He was into cars, and he didn't. I don't think he had a kid at this time, but he was trying to explain to me that I'm going to keep this car, I'm going to keep this racing going on and all this stuff. And I said, when you have kids, I said all this stuff is going to go out the window, or at least a big portion of it's going to go out the window. It should go out the window, because now we're talking about childcare, food, clothing. Like there's expenses that come with children that I had no idea existed. Like, what in the world? Anytime you want to play a sport, I'm paying $150 per kid for them to play, plus the equipment. Like, it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. Don't let them get sick, right?
Oh my God.
So my daughter needs braces at this point in time. I'm like, all right, I got health coverage, but it doesn't cover everything. So now that's another expense that I have to. So anyway, then my friend was like, I'm going to keep this thing. The next time I seen him, instead of this Mustang he had this little teeny car running around. I said, what happened to the Mustang? But things change, and you have to do an assessment of what you need for your family. Sometimes it might mean downsizing if, maybe you can't get that 6-pack of your favorite beer, this week.
Coors Light.
Get your Coors Light. Shout out to Coors Light. You want to be a sponsor of the podcast?
There you go.
You might get the Coors Light. Put that extra money into your kid's account. Might be $10. It's something.
Yes.
You have to do something.
Compound interest is a hell of a thing. So $10 today is a lot more 10, 20 years from now.
Absolutely. So make sure you're looking into your finances, and don't tell me that you have no money, but you're going on all these trips. Right. And don't tell me you got no money. You got season tickets to the Sixers game. Right. It goes back to what you find important in your priorities. Like your toys and things are going to downsize.
Unless you can. Unless you legitimately can, which is good for you. Right. But at least be honest with yourself. This is important.
At some point, I had season tickets to the Sixers. Guess what? I have a family. I can't afford. Now I go to one game, maybe two, a year. And I'm at the point where I could have season tickets, but that means I'm taking money out of something else for my own selfish things. And there's things that I do that I probably shouldn't do, but I make sure that at least my kids got money in their account every single check, even if they don't even know what it is and what it's about. Yeah. So make sure you start working on that. Last thing we're going to talk about is what happens when things fall apart. Yeah. Your relationship doesn't work, you get a divorce, or God forbid something happens, and now your family's looking at you like, what do we do now, Daddy? Yeah. It goes back to marriages and things. Things happen. Events happen. You may not be, I'll stick with marriage for right now, so you may not be with that person. We have to do a better job as men to understand that relationship had nothing to do with our kids. I've seen it so many times where parents are putting kids in the middle of something that had nothing to do with them. So now the kids taking on, they already in their brain, their adolescent mind are coming to school, because I see it all the time, saying that they feel like they're the reason why their parents got the divorce. Right. You need to have conversations, if you can, if they're old enough to understand with your children, that this has nothing to do with you. One of the reasons why me and my father have a great relationship now is because I realized that their marriage had nothing to do. I don't even want to know what happened between the two of them. It had nothing to do with me. Yeah. It shouldn't affect my relationship with you. Shouldn't affect my relationship with that other person. But you have to. We got to stop putting our kids in the middle of it. As adults, we are destroying our children a lot of the time. A lot of the kids that are coming in these schools that I see are broken because of something that an adult had done to them, usually a parent or of some sort. So you got to be man enough to understand that things just don't happen. This will happen and will fall apart. Yeah. But what do you do that's going to be able to help you and keep that title of father? You can lose that real quick and easy.
Yeah, I think part of this goes back to our conversation on masculinity. Let me start with this idea. Life is very hard. Life is very difficult. We have moments of ease, and they're fun and enjoyable. But for the most part, life is hard. It's work, it's grind, it's focus. It's hard. And sometimes it gets even harder. So when you first asked me about this, when you wrote me about this topic, I wasn't thinking necessarily about the relationship falling apart. I just was thinking sometimes, it hits the fan. And what do you do? And that's why I said, to me, this part of this goes back to the idea of masculinity of, there is something to be said about a stiff upper lip. Sometimes you just have to toughen up. Because, and here's the thing, you could run away, I suppose, if you wanted to, but that's not going to make the situation. That's not going to fix the situation. You have to stiff upper lip, and that doesn't mean, because this happens to me all the time. I'm a great crier. I could cry at the right commercial. If you put the right commercial on TV, I could draw a tear. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that in your moments you can't go on your own and lose it a little bit. Right. I think that's fine. But you also have to, as you said, be the leader of your family, be the provider, security. This is part of security. When things get ugly, okay, and everyone's looking like, what the hell are we going to do? So fall apart could be you're about to lose your home. Well, guess who they're looking to? Yep. They're looking to you. And if you're falling apart like a cheap suit, the likelihood is that they are too. Right. Now, you may be falling apart on the inside. Right. And that's why I say, in those times when you're on stage, okay, when you're in view, stiff upper lip, man. Yeah. Toughen up. Yeah. I'm sorry to tell you that that's not the time to lose it. That's not the time to fall apart. That's not the time to cry, for lack of a better term. And I even mean cry on the inside. Toughen up. So part of that is rational thought. Like, look at the problem, look at the situation, and say, while this is just awful, how do we actually deal with this? And this idea of rational thought goes to being solutions oriented, right? But just the idea of rational thought. When my father-in-law passed away, A month later, my mother passed away. And one of the ways we dealt with that was through rational thought. The idea that for all of recorded history and probably long before that, this has happened to everybody. Everyone comes and everyone goes. It's going to happen to us too. And just that idea of it's the natural way of things when it comes to death, it's the natural way of things. It actually does help. It doesn't eliminate the pain, but it does help. And it helps get you through it. So this idea of being rational with what's going on. If you were losing your home, you say, okay, this is awful. I mean, I can't even imagine how awful that must be to say you're going to be evicted if you're renting a place and it's gone. Or if your home burned down or something like that. One of the ways to deal with that is to just become rational and say, okay, we're going to attack this problem and say, where are we going to live now? Not, where are we going to live now? That's fear and anguish. It's actually saying, no, where are we going to live now? Let's start looking for a place to live. I think that's a seriously important way of looking at it. You know, helping other people. You know, Jordan Peterson wrote this book, 12 Rules of Life. And one of the things he talks about in there is, you know, when someone, if one of the ways to like improve yourself is to be the strongest person at your father's funeral. And what he's saying is, you know, be there for everyone else. First of all, it's going to make it the whole situation better for you because you're not so focused on this body that's in the casket and how sad you are. You're there for maybe dozens of people. But that also makes you stronger. And you're there for others and it helps you get through it. It's tough, but life is tough.
When you were talking, I was thinking about the movie Lion King, which is my favorite movie, by the way, right? So, one of them. I think, you know, look at Simba, the character Simba. His father died. Stuff hit the fan. He decided to go run and then be in the wilderness until he realized that, hey, this is not the solution. Like, I'm the
and nothing
king.
Got better. In fact, it got worse.
It got worse. I'm the king. I need to go back and reclaim my crown. I look at when things fall apart in two perspectives. You can act like a young Simba, run from it, and then forever be the same coward person that you were. Or you can run towards the problem, like you said, and find a solution. But I'm also looking at when you're going to make it through that storm. You're going to fix it at some point in time. What type of person? Look at the person you have now become.
Absolutely.
Right?
This goes back to the exact thing.
Right?
Absolutely. It always ends up being that. And then to really come full circle with it, your kids just saw you deal with that. You know, on a significantly less important scenario. I picked my son up from wrestling. I brought my daughter along with me. And when we get back in the car, I start to drive out of the parking lot. And she's struggling with the seatbelt strap. She can't get it to come down, and she starts crying, Daddy, I can't get it. I said, hey, stop. Stop whining. Stop complaining. Look, why is it stuck? I said, get up, turn around. Why is it stuck? I said, fix the problem. Don't complain about the problem. Fix the problem. You know what she did? She fixed the problem. She sat down, and I just hear, it clicks in, and I said, that's it, baby. That's how you do it. We don't, and I say it like, wait, this is a Collesano thing. We don't quit and we don't complain. We fix the problem. Don't complain. Don't whine. Don't sing a song. Fix it. Or at least try to fix it. And, you know, and as kids, they're not always going to fix it. They're not always going to come up with the solution. But don't let them get away with not doing that. And don't do that yourself. Don't let yourself off the hook. At least try to fix it.
And don't
make an honest effort.
And don't live in your excuses. Like, something obviously happened for you to get to that particular point. Right? So, but acknowledge it, learn from it, but don't dwell on it and use it as a crutch. I hate when people use, their failures and go back and say, have all these excuses. One, the world don't care about your excuses and what you went through. Nobody can really care. Even your bestest of friends really don't care about your excuses. So learn from it. Look at the problem. Break the problem apart, like you said, and really try to attack it. If you can't solve it, try to turn it into something else and move on from it. A lot of at least fathers that I can't even call them fathers that run and they dwell in their excuses. Well, I had this addiction, or I was distant. My dad did this to me. Like, nobody cares. Right? What are you doing right now? Like, what is it?
Because the results are the name of the game.
Absolutely.
In the end, the results are the name of the game. Are you there or are you not?
Are you not?
And the other side of it is your past doesn't dictate your future. Mm-hmm. If it did, I mean, most of us would kind of be screwed. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's just not how it works.
Right.
If you don't want it to.
Yes, exactly.
If you let it, then it will. And you know, to be fair, everyone's past is different. Some people's past are more difficult than others. You know, as you're telling me your past, I'm sitting here in like wonderment because you're a really successful guy doing very well, and it wasn't easy. And you came, like you're saying, you didn't have these examples showing you how to do these things, but you did it.
Right.
You know, it blows me away. You know, so you know we can always look to these people who are doing it, even when it's not easy. You know, some of us have it easier than others. Some of us have it more difficult at different times. You have to push through. You cannot use that as an excuse.
Right.
Because if you did, like you just said, no one else cares.
Right.
This is something that I say all the time. I think it's true. Everyone thinks their problems are the biggest problems in the world.
Absolutely.
Because they're their problems. Okay? If you lost your house and I got a flat tire today, if we were looking from the outside, losing your house is infinitely larger issue than my flat tire.
Right.
But to me, you know, I had to pull over on the highway. I almost got hit by an 18-wheeler. I had to change the car. My hands were freezing as I'm touching this tire iron. The donut was flat, and that was no good. That problem is way more important to me.
To you,
There's no comparison, right? But in my eyes, that's a bigger problem. Nobody cares about, I mean, nobody really cares to the point of where they're going to solve it for you.
Right. They'll be like, that's messed up. Or
that sucks. I got to go get a sandwich. Wow, I'm starving. Right? So you're going to have to solve your problems. To avoid them is probably just going to make them worse. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to go away. And more than likely, it's going to get worse. So just attack it. Get after it, man. Get after it.
I agree.
Get into it. Fight.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. Any last words of advice let's just go with young fathers out there, because I feel like they need to hear the message probably the most.
Let me say this. Your kids are a direct reflection of you. That can be very painful, okay? I'm a big believer. I've come to a point in my life where I'm a big believer in being honest with yourself. And that can hurt, okay? It could really sting when you're truly honest with yourself. But there is a beauty that comes from that. When you're truly honest with yourself and you truly take responsibility, you instantaneously, in that moment, become a solutions-oriented person. It's almost like a cleansing. When you take that ownership and you take that responsibility, that part of it is done. And now you move forward with trying to fix it or get better, improve, do better, whatever it may be. Taking that ownership and understanding that what your kids are doing, what they're saying, how they're acting, that's on you.
Right.
It's not on your teachers or your kids' teachers. It's not on their friends. Not to say that they don't have an influence, but you're the main influence. So if they're doing something you don't like, eat it.
That was our episode on fatherhood, part 2 of Fatherhood with Pete Collesano. Part 1 is also listed on this page. If you miss it, go to theempowermentperspective.com/podcast to check out part 1. More to come from the Empowerment Perspective group. So until next time, stay empowered.